Hello and welcome. You're listening to What's New Today, a kids and family podcast. This is Sangeeta, your host from India. I'm joined by a curious child, and together we discuss how countries in Europe don't seem to have enough electricity to keep themselves warm, especially in their cold winters. Let me introduce you to my co-host today.
Hi, I'm Ananya Mathur, a 14-year-old of Delhi Public School, Kamptee Road, Nagpur.
Welcome to the show, Ananya. Ananya, are you more of a bookworm or someone who loves to listen to things?
I'd say I'm more of a listener because before listening to podcasts, I used to listen to audiobooks. I usually tend to listen to books instead of reading them. So yeah, podcasts and audiobooks are my thing. When I was 12, I guess, Harry Potter was a long series for me. I just listened to the audiobooks instead of reading them.
This was Stephen Fry's reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that is a very different experience. As much as I love reading all the 7 Harry Potter books, and I must have read them about 10, 12 times over and over, I still love listening to the way Stephen Fry has read the 7 books aloud.
True.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's a different experience. Awesome. So Ananya, before we jump into today's topic, shall we start with a very tiny game?
Yeah, sure.
I will give you 3 words, very simple words. And I'd like you to tell me the 3 things that come to your mind. The first word is lights.
LED, tube lights and tube light holder.
Also, all 3 are man-made. Second word, baker.
Buns, oven and apron.
Aprons. Okay, that's very interesting. And the third word is the Eiffel Tower.
Paris, lights, tall.
Wow. Let's take off from exactly where we spoke about Eiffel Tower in Paris. So I know you've done a little bit of reading about the lack of energy in Europe, or lack of sufficient energy in Europe. And you probably have heard that the French government is decided that they are going to turn off the Eiffel Tower lights at night. So do you know why?
Europe doesn't have enough electricity this year. So the European Union as a whole has decided that all the countries will cut off their energy usage by 15%. Now, to do this, they have turned off the lights of Eiffel Tower.
Oh, so one of the things that they're going to do to reduce the electricity usage is to turn off the lights of Eiffel Tower. So why is Europe facing this problem this year?
They are facing this problem because of several reasons. The big 2 reasons I'd say would be the coronavirus and the Russia-Ukraine war. So Europe was a lot dependent on Russia for its energy usage. And because of the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has cut down those supplies.
So Russia used to send Europe a lot of coal, natural gas, and Europe used to generate electricity using these, correct?
Yes.
Now, why has Russia become angry with European countries? Why has Russia decided not to give them any of these things?
During the Russia-Ukraine war, the European countries supported Ukraine by sending them weapons and supplies of food, etc. So because of this, Russia cut down the supplies to Europe.
Oh, so Russia got angry because Europe is supporting their enemy.
Yeah, exactly. So European countries put some sanctions on Russia. Now, the McDonald's burgers are not sold in Russia. The Apple phones are also not sold in Russia. And this is also creating a lot of problem in the...
So basically, Russia got very angry because they don't have nice burgers to munch on and fancy phones to use. So they've retaliated by saying, we will not give you coal or natural gas with which you countries can generate power.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you spoke about how Eiffel Tower lights are going to be turned off. Anything else that European countries are going to do?
Yeah, Germany has also turned off the lights in the monuments and the advertisements for the buildings.
So when people are driving on roads, they no longer will see all those fancy, well-lit billboards at night.
No, they won't. That's why
Ooh.
the tourism will also be affected. Europe will have a dark and cold winter this year. So it's no use going to Europe when
Maybe
there's no
we should
Eiffel Tower.
invite all those people to India.
Yeah, exactly. We should, take them to Taj Mahal. Also, ma'am, I've read somewhere that in restaurants in some of the countries of Europe, there are motion detectors, wherein if a person is sitting in a restaurant, only then, only one light above that person will be turned on, and rest of the lights would be turned off to conserve their energy needs.
Wow. So when I enter the restaurant, if no one's sitting there, it will be dark. And the moment
Exactly.
I start walking, just above me, the lights will start turning on.
Uh-huh.
Tung, 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 tung,
Exactly like
something like that. Okay, sounds like a scene right out of a horror movie. On that
Exactly.
point, I also read that I don't remember which country, it's probably Germany or France or Spain. They're not letting people increase the temperature above 19 degrees Celsius in their cold winters. So the maximum
Exactly.
you can go to is 19. Have you
Exactly.
experienced 19 degrees ever?
Yeah, I think once.
And do you find 19 really cold?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, so people can survive at 19.
Yeah, so that is why it's set in 19. If it would have been much lesser than that, there would have been so many protests and stuff, because people can survive in Europe in winters if there's no heater there.
Yeah, it's hard to survive in Europe without a heater. There are even parts of poorer countries where there may be complete blackout. That means there will be no electricity at all in India.
In the poorer region of Europe, people have started depending again on firewood for their energy usage.
I think it's like a throwback to some of the books I must have read. I don't know, when is the last time I referred to a book which had firewood used in the fireplace? Also, there's a very tiny little interesting story about Germany as a country which is so dependent on Russia for getting its raw materials to generate electricity. But it was not always this dependent on Russia. Until about a decade or so ago, Germany used to generate a lot of its power using nuclear reactors in its own country. So if the same Russia-Ukraine war had happened about 10 plus years earlier, there may not have been as much of a crisis situation as there is today. But Germany took a decision to shut down many of its nuclear reactors because there was a big accident in one of the nuclear reactors in Japan, which was caused by a tsunami. So ever since that happened, Germany got really worried and they decided to shut down.
Oh,
yeah.
So that is why they are so dependent on Russia.
You are spot on, 100% correct.
That is one of the reasons why they're so dependent on Russia. That's true. So Ananya, in your opinion, if Europe is still not able to manage the electricity shortage, and there are still a lot of blackouts, even amongst the richer European countries, how do you think it will affect people? Apart from, of course, the fact that they may not stay warm in their houses.
So because of shortage of electricity, I think the factories won't be able to work as efficiently as they used to. And there will be a problem in manufacturing, like the bakers won't be able to light their ovens. So there will be a shortage of food as well.
So Ananya, do you think the rest of the world is also likely to be affected by this energy crisis in Europe?
Yes, I do believe that no one will be insulated from this crisis. It will depend on different reasons, but every part of the world will be affected by some or the other means.
Yeah, that's true. So, for instance, ever since the Russia invasion of Ukraine has happened, crude oil or the petrol and diesel prices have gone up throughout the world. So that always affects the prices of a lot of goods and items for people across the world. So I agree. So there must be some level of impact. Hopefully it will not be very high. we've all been using fossil fuels to generate electricity and for other sources of energy, right?
Yeah.
So I think this crisis has also happened because Europe still depends on Russia for fossil fuels. So do you think because of this, countries are going to use more of solar energy or wind energy or other renewable sources of energy?
No, they're coming back to the fossil fuels. Every year, many countries meet at a place called the Conference of Parties, COP. In COP26, they decided that they won't use fossil fuels. The developed nations said that. But now when they are facing a crisis, they're again turning back to the fossil fuels, forgetting their promise that they made. But when the developing nations were struggling to grow, they told them to stop using the fossil fuels. But now when they are facing a crisis, you see, they are again turning back to fossil fuels.
So you're saying the Western countries, including Europe and the US, are drilling oil rather than investing in solar or, other forms of renewable energy. That brings us to the quiz time for today.
Quiz time. Let's see how well you listen.
Question 1. Which is the famous monument in Paris whose lights will be turned out at night because France just doesn't seem to have enough electricity?
Eiffel Tower.
Question 2. What is the highest temperature in winter that people in offices can set their thermostats to?
It's 19 degrees Celsius.
Question 3. So Ananya, if you had to choose one destination to go to on a holiday this year in December, would it rather be London or would it rather be Australia?
It would be Australia because London will be all dark because of the energy crisis.
Plus, of course, it will be summer in Australia. That's the added
Yeah, exactly.
advantage. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. It was such a pleasure chatting with you, Ananya. But before I let you go, is there one episode on this podcast channel that you really enjoyed and would like to recommend to our listeners?
I would recommend 2 podcasts that I really liked. One was about the Tasmanian tigers, which I totally didn't know about. And the other one was about the Barbie dolls, the recent one. I liked it because I somehow related to it because I used to, have a marathon between my, all the dolls that I had. My father and I used to just take them and make them run.
Wow. So you conducted running races amongst your Barbie dolls. You were a very unusual girl child, but it's very interesting to hear that. So if listeners would like to listen to the episode about how Barbie dolls will no longer just look like the old Barbie dolls, they're now going to look like doctors and astronauts and maybe even marathon runners, this is episode 68 and the episode about Tasmanian tigers, which had gone extinct, may very likely be brought back. This is just like a story out of Jurassic Park book. That's episode 62. Link to both these episodes are given in the show notes below. That brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to this banter between Ananya and I, please do click the follow and subscribe button and definitely do please leave us a rating and a review. That helps other podcast listeners discover this show with great ease. Thank you so much and
thanks for listening.